Welcome to the Sunshine State. It is the land of eternal vacation, of white sand beaches, roller coasters, and retirement villages with manicured golf courses. It is the place where America comes to forget its troubles. But in 2026, there is no forgetting the reality on the ground. If you step off the plane in Orlando or Tampa in July, the first thing that hits you is not the sun. It is the air. It is a physical weight. A suffocating wet blanket of humidity that wraps around your lungs and refuses to let go. For the tourist, this is an excuse to order another frozen drink by the pool, but for the 50,000 people living on the streets of Florida, this air is an executioner. We are witnessing a crisis that is fundamentally different from the dry heat of Arizona or the cold of Chicago. This is a biological crisis. This is the wet bulb. And it is happening in a state that has declared war on the very people fighting to survive it. Welcome to Florida Homeless Crisis 2026, Extreme Heat, Addiction, and Life on the Streets. Today, we are going to trek into the swamps where the hidden homeless are building secret cities to escape the police. We will investigate the medical nightmare of fentanyl addiction in a sauna. And we will expose the brutal efficiency of the new state laws that have made it a crime to sleep in public. This is the uncomfortable truth about paradise. To understand the Florida crisis, you have to understand the physics of sweat. The human body cools itself by sweating. The sweat evaporates and the skin cools down. But in Florida, the humidity is often 90%. When the air is saturated with water, sweat cannot evaporate. It just sits there. The body's cooling system fails. This is called the wet bulb temperature. When it hits a certain point, a healthy human being sitting in the shade with unlimited water will still die of heat stroke. Their internal organs simply cook. We traveled to downtown Tampa to see this in action. The pavement was radiating heat. We met a man named Gator. He was shirtless, his skin a deep, leathery red. He was sitting under a highway overpass, panting like a dog. "You can't breathe," Gator told us, wiping his eyes. "The air is soup. You drink a gallon of water, and you just sweat it out in 10 minutes. And the concrete. At night, the concrete stays hot. It's like sleeping on a griddle." Gator showed us his legs. They were swollen. "Edema," he said. "The heat makes you swell up. Your heart is working triple time just to pump blood." But Gator can't just pitch a tent in the park to catch a breeze. Not anymore. In 2026, Florida is enforcing one of the strictest public camping bans in the history of the United States. Signed into law by the governor, the legislation prohibits counties from allowing public sleeping unless it is in a designated, state-approved camp. If you are caught sleeping on a sidewalk, in a park, or under a gazebo, you are arrested. We rode along with a homeless outreach team in St. Petersburg. The tension was palpable. "We aren't helping them anymore," one outreach worker whispered to us. "We are just warning them. We are telling them, run, the cops are coming." So, where do they go? They go to the jungle. Florida is full of pockets of dense, tangled wilderness, swamps, pine barrens, mangroves. We hiked into a patch of woods near the Orlando International Airport. Just a mile away, tourists were landing for their Disney vacations, but in here, it was Vietnam. The mosquitoes were clouds. The ground was mud, and hidden in the palmetto bushes were hundreds of tents. We met a woman named Sarah. She works at a theme park. She sells churros to tourists. "I can't afford rent," Sarah said, spraying bug spray on her arms. "I make $16 an hour. An apartment is $1,800. So I live here. I shower at the gym. I put on my uniform, put on my smile, and go to work. Then I come back to the snakes." This is the Disney shadow. The service economy of Florida runs on the backs of people who are sleeping in the mud. They are the cast members, the cleaners, the landscapers. And they are hiding in the woods like fugitives. But the heat and the law are only two legs of the tripod. The third leg is addiction. And in the heat, drugs behave differently. We visited a harm reduction clinic in Miami. The doctors there are seeing a terrifying trend. Fentanyl slows down the respiratory system. It also messes with the hypothalamus, the part of the brain that regulates body temperature. When you take fentanyl in 105-degree heat index, you don't just overdose, you melt. We find them in the tents, a paramedic told us. They aren't dead from the drug. They are dead from hyperthermia. They passed out, and the tent turned into an oven. It hit 130 degrees inside. Their organs just shut down. We also saw the return of spice synthetic cannabinoids. In the heat, spice causes seizures. We witnessed a man in downtown Orlando having a seizure on the hot pavement. A crowd gathered, but nobody touched him. The asphalt was burning his skin as he shook. This is the intersection of addiction and life on the streets. It is a biological trap. You take the drug to escape the misery of the heat, and the drug makes the heat lethal. The state's response to this crisis has been law and order. The new legislation promises treatment instead of jail, but the funding for treatment centers hasn't kept pace with the arrests. The designated camps that the law allows are often far from the city centers, far from jobs, and look more like internment camps than shelters. We visited one of these proposed sites. It was a gravel lot, surrounded by chain-link fencing, miles from the nearest bus stop. No shade, no trees, just rows of tents in the sun. They call it a safe zone, a homeless advocate told us. We call it a kiln. You put 1,000 people in a gravel lot in August, you are going to have a mass casualty event. The cruelty of the Florida crisis is its visibility, or lack thereof. In California, the homeless are on the sidewalk. In Florida, they are being erased. They are being pushed deep into the foliage, deep into the industrial parks, deep into the places where the tourists never look. But the evidence is there, if you look closely. You see it in the gas station bathrooms, where people are bathing in the sinks. You see it in the library, where every chair is taken by someone sleeping with their head on a table, soaking up the AC. You see it in the eyes of the person serving you dinner, who looks exhausted because they spent the night fighting off raccoons and rain. As the sun sets over the Gulf Coast, the sky turns a brilliant, fiery orange. It is the kind of sunset that sells postcards. But for Gator, under the bridge in Tampa, the sunset brings no relief. The humidity holds the heat. The air is still sticky. The mosquitoes are waking up. He takes a sip of warm water from a plastic jug. He looks at the condos rising across the river glass towers that reflect the dying light. They want us gone, Gator says. But we are like the swamp. You can pave over us. You can cut us back. But we're still here. We're just under the surface. Florida is a state built on a swamp. It is a state built on the illusion that we can control nature, that we can air condition the world. But the AC is broken. The swamp is rising, and the people at the bottom are drowning in the air itself. Thank you for watching this investigation into the Florida crisis. It is a story of heat, sweat, and survival. If you believe that a society should be judged by how it treats its most vulnerable during a disaster, please like this video. It helps us expose the truth. And please, subscribe, to America's Uncomfortable Truth, We will continue to document the reality, from the snow to the swamp. Leave a comment below. Is the camping ban a solution, or just a way to hide the problem? Stay hydrated, look out for your neighbors, and never stop demanding the truth.